9:03 a.m. Brandon Creel fired me while I was holding a $4.2 billion contract. 9:12 a.m. Their $9.3 billion deal collapsed. By the end of that week, I'd signed an $11.8 billion contract with my own company. Let me tell you how that happened. My name is Russell Bennett. I'm 52 years old, and until that Tuesday morning, I was the Senior VP of Strategic Partnerships at AeroVista Systems. I'd given them 18 years of my life. The coffee on the conference table was still hot when it happened. I'd just poured it 2 minutes earlier. The $4.2 billion military logistics contract sat in front of me, nearly complete, 94% done. Every signature in place except ours. Just needed my final authorization token to make it official. I remember thinking this would be a good day. Then Brandon walked in, didn't sit down, didn't wait for the 6 other people in the room to finish their status updates, just stood there in his tailored Navy suit and said it. "We're letting you go, Russell, effective immediately." For half a second I thought he was joking. For half a second I still believed the last 18 years meant something. Nobody in the room looked at me. Not Aaron from compliance, not Teresa, who'd worked alongside me for 15 years. Just silence, and people suddenly very interested in their laptops. I started to respond, but Brandon raised his hand like I was interrupting something already decided. "We need leadership that aligns with our vision," he said, eyes fixed on the wall screen behind me. "Velocity, adaptability, less legacy thinking holding us back." Legacy thinking. That's what 18 years of building their contract infrastructure had become. I'd survived 3 CEOs at this company, lived through a hostile takeover attempt in 2019, personally stopped a Russian cyber attack in 2021 that tried to forge my signature on a $1.2 billion F-35 parts contract. I built the digital authentication system they still used every single day. And Brandon, he'd been here 18 months, arrived as chief digital officer because his uncle Charles sat on the board. He was 29 years old with an MBA from Stanford and 0 actual field experience. He loved buzzwords, AI, disruption, agile frameworks. The board ate it up. He wanted credit. I wanted work done right. He wanted to impress investors with big announcements. I wanted to protect the systems that kept us solvent. He wanted my position, but he didn't understand what came with it. Brandon stepped around the table and pulled the contract documents from in front of me. His fingers left prints on the cover page. "We'll handle it from here," he said, flashing that smile he used in board presentations. "The $9.3 billion defense AI deal goes live today. Should make the quarter look exceptional." I didn't say anything. Didn't tell him that without my authorization token, that $9.3 billion deal had exactly 9 minutes before it automatically voided itself. Let me explain something. 3 years ago, after those Russian hackers tried to forge my signature on the F-35 contract, I rebuilt our entire authentication system from the ground up, spent 7 weeks on it. I called it the Sentinel Protocol. Every contract over $1 billion required a biometric encrypted token synced with DoD NIST 800-171 compliance standards. The token had to match the original project architect, my token for any contract I originated. If that token wasn't verified within 9 minutes of contract execution, the system would auto-void. No alerts, no warnings, just a quiet shutdown and a permanent flag sent to all parties. It was designed that way for security, to prevent exactly what almost destroyed us in 2021. I'd presented the Sentinel Protocol to the board 4 years ago, right after the attack. Charles Creel himself had signed off on it, the same Charles who later brought in his nephew Brandon. Brandon had sat in on the final approval meeting, skimmed the first 2 pages and said, "If it makes us look more secure to investors, approved." He never read how it actually worked. Never bothered to understand the technical architecture. Never asked what would happen if the original token holder left the company. So when Brandon took those contract documents from my hands at 9:03 a.m., he'd just started a countdown he didn't even know existed. I stood up, didn't say goodbye. The hallway was empty as I walked out. My footsteps echoed on the tile. The elevator dinged too loud in the silence. As the doors closed, I thought about my father, Arthur Bennett. He worked 30 years at a GM plant in Detroit. Machinist. Good with his hands, could fix anything they put in front of him. Then 2008 hit, and the economy collapsed. The plant closed 6 months later. Automation, they said. Cheaper to use robots than pay union wages. He was 54 when they let him go. Same age I am now, give or take. He spent the next 3 years looking for work, sent out 200 applications, got 4 interviews, no offers, died of a heart attack in 2011, still unemployed. I've always believed it wasn't his heart that killed him. It was the feeling of being replaceable. He used to tell me when I was young, "Russ, you make sure you're the guy they can't replace. Be so damn good at what you do that losing you would be stupid." I'd believed that. For 18 years I'd believed that. I started at Aero Vista when I was 34, right after my Navy discharge. I'd done 8 years on nuclear submarines, learned systems, learned precision, learned that details matter when you're 400 feet underwater and one mistake kills everyone. I got my engineering degree at community college while working security at night. Nobody handed me anything. I worked up from contract coordinator to regional partnerships to international compliance to senior VP. Built relationships with generals and defense contractors across 4 continents. Learned which protocols actually kept us safe and which ones were just paperwork theater. That $4.2 billion contract I'd been holding when Brandon fired me, the completion bonus from that was going to fund something I'd been planning for 2 years, the Arthur Bennett Initiative. Scholarships for kids whose fathers lost their jobs to automation. First-generation engineering students. Trade schools. Technical programs. Real paths forward. I wanted my father's name to mean something. I wanted those kids to have what he never got. A second chance. Last year, Access Global tried to recruit me. Competitor firm, twice my salary, full autonomy, unlimited resources. I turned them down. Loyalty still means something, I told their recruiter. Turns out loyalty was a one-way protocol. They could terminate the handshake anytime they wanted. The elevator opened to the lobby. Security guard glanced up, saw my badge, nodded. I walked outside into the cool morning air. They thought I was finished. Obsolete. A relic from the fax machine era. What they didn't know was that I'd just walked out holding the only key that could save their $9.3 billion deal. And I had absolutely no intention of using it. I sat in my car in the parking lot across the street from Aero Vista's headquarters. Engine off. Hands on the steering wheel. 9:06 a.m. 3 minutes since they'd fired me. My phone was already lighting up. Missed calls, text messages. I ignored all of it. From the glove compartment, I pulled out a small encrypted flash drive. Matte black, fingerprint protected. I'd kept it there for situations exactly like this. I plugged it into my laptop and logged into the offline dashboard I'd built for the Sentinel protocol. There it was, displayed in clean white text on a black screen. Token mismatch detected. Protocol countdown active. Time remaining, 6 minutes. That's all the time Aero Vista had to figure out what was happening and stop it. Except they couldn't stop it, not without me. I could stop it, though. One call to Bridget, our head of legal, and she could flag the system, override the auto void temporarily, restore my access. I'd built that failsafe into the protocol for emergencies. My thumb hovered over her name and my contacts. Then my iPad buzzed on the passenger seat. New email. Subject line, transition strategy, internal eyes only. Sender, Brandon Creel. It was addressed to the executive team. And somehow, probably because of an old distribution list that nobody had bothered to update, it had been CC'd to me. I opened it. The email was mostly corporate speak, restructuring initiatives, optimization pathways, stakeholder alignment. My name wasn't mentioned once in the first 4 paragraphs. Then I got to the bottom. No concerns about the contract transition. The old man was just keeping the seat warm anyway. Time to actually innovate instead of hiding behind protocols that were really just job security theater. Morgan's generation built companies with fax machines. We're building with AI. I read it twice, just to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. The old man, job security theater, Morgan's generation, 18 years, 3 CEOs, multiple international deployments. I'd built the authentication system that kept their contracts secure from foreign interference. I'd personally intercepted a Russian cyber attack that would have cost them everything. I'd trained half the engineers in that building. Job security theater. My thumb moved away from Bridget's name. I checked the countdown. 5:18 remaining. Let me tell you something about the Navy. When you're on a nuclear submarine, they teach you to plan for every failure mode. Every system has a backup. Every backup has a backup to the backup. You don't leave anything to chance because when you're 400 feet underwater A single mistake kills 140 people. I'd applied that same philosophy to the Sentinel protocol. I didn't build it as a weapon. I built it as a safeguard. Because 3 years ago, someone had almost destroyed this company by forging a signature, and I'd made damn sure it would never happen again. The protocol was elegant in its simplicity. If the original architect's biometric token isn't verified within 9 minutes of contract execution, the system voids the contract automatically and flags it permanently across all international databases. No alerts, no warnings, just a quiet, irreversible shutdown. Brandon had approved it himself 4 years ago, sat in the meeting, barely looked at the technical documentation and said, "Whatever makes the board happy." Now he was about to learn what happens when you sign off on systems you don't understand. 4:42 remaining. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text from Teresa. "Russell, they're looking for you. Something's wrong with the AI contract. Brandon is freaking out. System won't accept his authorization. Please call me." I didn't respond. Another text came through, this one from Owen Fletcher. Owen ran IT security, ex-Marine, served around the same time I was in the Navy. Different branch, but you recognize your own. 2 months ago, he'd been the one who caught Brandon trying to cover up a $740 million vendor delay by blaming my team. Owen had quietly sent me the server logs that proved Brandon had manually overridden our approval workflows. Owen's text was brief. System rejecting all signature authorizations. Brandon attempting manual override. Not working. Logs recording everything. You good? I typed back. I'm fine. Let it run. 3 dots appeared. Then, copy that. 3:51 remaining. I could picture what was happening on the 22nd floor right now. Brandon standing at the head of the conference table, probably red-faced, yelling at AT to fix it. Someone from legal pulling up the contract metadata, trying to figure out why the authentication handshake wasn't completing. Eventually, someone would find the Sentinel protocol documentation buried in the security archives. Then they'd understand. The only person who could authorize that $9.3 billion contract was sitting in a parking lot across the street, watching the countdown tick down. My phone rang again. Bridget from legal. I answered. "Russell, thank God, we have a major situation. The defense AI contract won't authenticate. The system says your token is required, but you're no longer..." She stopped. "Can you come back, just for the authorization? We can sort out everything else later, but right now we need..." "No." Silence on her end. I could hear voices in the background. Someone was shouting. "Russell, this is a $9.3 billion contract. If it voids, the company's stock will..." "I understand the implications, Bridget. Then why won't you..." "Check your email. Brandon sent something out this morning. You're on the distribution list." I heard typing, then a long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was different, quieter. "Oh, yeah. Russell, I didn't know he was planning to..." "It's not your fault. What do you want me to tell them?" I looked at the countdown. 2:19 remaining. "Tell them the system is working exactly as designed. Tell them I built the Sentinel protocol to prevent unauthorized contract execution. And tell them that when you fire the person whose authorization token the system requires, you don't get to keep the contract. Russell, they're going to lose everything. The stock price, the partnerships, the..." "No," I said. "They're going to learn something. There's a difference." 1:47 remaining. "I have to go, Bridget." "Russell, please." I hung up. My phone buzzed immediately. Text from Owen. "Brandon just screamed at IT director that he'll fire everyone if they don't override the system. IT director told him that's not how cryptographic authentication works. Brandon threw a laptop." Then another text. "Security footage capturing everything. Thought you'd want to know." 1:04 remaining. I opened my laptop and pulled up a separate window. Bloomberg Terminal. Aerovista's stock ticker. Aero. Market hadn't opened yet, but pre-market trading was active. Current price, $87.40. I watched the countdown. 45 seconds, 30 seconds, 15, 10, 5. The screen flashed white, then displayed a single line of text. Contract invalidated, signature token mismatch, global execution revoked, permanent flag transmitted to all parties. 9:12 a.m., exactly 9 minutes after Brandon Creel fired me, their $9.3 billion contract disappeared. I closed the laptop and started the car. Time to see what happened next. I drove to a diner about 10 miles away, ordered coffee and sat by the window. My phone was going insane. 17 missed calls in 20 minutes. I turned off all notifications except texts from Owen. At 9:38 a.m., I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. European domain. Subject line, regarding recent developments. The sender was Matthias Kruger, Strategic Director at Euro Defense Systems, the international partner on the $9.3 billion AI contract that had just voided. I opened it. Mr. Bennett, we have been informed that AeroVista's authentication system has experienced a critical failure. Due to signature verification protocol violations, we are formally withdrawing from all negotiations with AeroVista systems effective immediately. However, we understand you are the architect of both the authentication protocol and the original project specifications. We would very much like to discuss an alternative arrangement. Direct engagement. Please call at your earliest convenience. There was a phone number. Swiss country code. I stared at it for a minute. Then I pulled up something I'd registered 6 months ago. A simple LLC filed in Delaware. Bennett Defense Solutions. I'd done it quietly, just as insurance. Not because I was planning to leave AeroVista, but because after 18 years in defense contracting, you learn to have contingencies. I'd secured the necessary development licenses, set up the corporate structure, filed for key DoD certifications, all of it sitting dormant, waiting. I called the number. Matthias answered on the second ring. Slight accent, Swiss-German maybe. Mr. Bennett, thank you for calling so promptly. You've been watching me. We've been watching your work, he corrected, for quite some time. We knew the authentication system at AeroVista was worth more than the company housing it. We were simply waiting to see if you would choose to act independently. And now? Now we would like to offer you a contract, direct engagement with Bennett Defense Solutions, the autonomous drone defense system we were developing with AeroVista. Full project authority, complete autonomy. Starting value $11.8 billion over 7 years. This includes the AI system integration, maintenance protocols, and most importantly, your Sentinel authentication architecture. You lead everything. All contracts route through your company. I didn't say anything right away. Through the diner window, I could see a delivery truck pulling into the AeroVista complex. The driver had no idea what was happening inside that building right now. Mr. Bennett? Send me the documentation, I'll review it. You'll have it within the hour. We've been preparing this for 4 months. I hung up and sat back. My coffee had gone cold. My phone buzzed. Owen. Russ, you need to see this. Emergency board meeting started at 9:45. Someone's recording it. Audio is leaking internally. He paused. It's bad. How bad? Brandon tried to blame it for system sabotage. Then they pulled up the server logs. All 47 of his manual override attempts, time-stamped, digitally signed with his executive credentials. After you were already terminated, Charles asked him to explain. He couldn't. I took a breath. And? Brandon's been suspended pending SEC investigation. Charles is trying to contain it, but the logs are already with legal. And someone leaked them to Bloomberg. Not you? Not me. But I'm not looking too hard for who did. I checked my laptop. Bloomberg Terminal. Market had opened at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. AeroVista's pre-market price, $87.40. Current price at 10:15 a.m., $74.20. Down $13.20. That's 15% in 45 minutes. Oh, and what's the internal mood? Panic. Half the executive team is in damage control meetings. Engineering is confused. Nobody knows what happened yet, but everyone knows it's catastrophic. Teresa's been asking about you. Tell her I'm okay. Will do. And Russ, that protocol you built. It did exactly what it was supposed to do, saved us from something worse down the line. That was always the point. I hung up and watched the stock price. By 10:45 a.m., it hit $70.15, down 20%. By 11:30 a.m., it dropped to $68.15, down 22%. Trading got halted twice for volatility. At 480 million shares outstanding, that was roughly 9.2 billion in market cap evaporated in 2 hours. Almost exactly the value of the contract they'd just lost. My laptop pinged. Email from Matthias. The documentation from Eurodefense was already there. I read through it carefully. All 47 pages, every clause, every signature requirement, every technical specification, every liability protection. It was clean, professional, comprehensive, and it was mine. The contract included a $3.2 million signing bonus, payable upon execution. I sat there for a long time, thinking about my father, about the Arthur Bennett Initiative, about 25 kids who needed scholarships, about proving that experience isn't obsolete just because some kid with an MBA says it is. Then I did something I hadn't done in 18 years. I put myself first. At 2:47 p.m., my phone rang. Charles Creel, the CEO, Brandon's uncle. I answered. Russell, we need to talk. About what? About coming back. We clearly made a significant error this morning. Brandon acted without full board consultation. We'd like to reinstate you immediately. Full title restoration, enhanced compensation package, and we can discuss. No. Pause. Excuse me? I'm not coming back, Charles. Russell, be reasonable. We can work through this. The defense contract can be renegotiated if you'll just authorize. That contract is gone. Eurodefense withdrew at 9:40 this morning. It's over. Longer pause. I could hear him breathing. But if you would simply reauthorize your token, we could approach them again, explain that it was a personnel transition error. I'm not authorizing anything for AeroVista. I'm done with that company. Then what exactly are you planning to do? I'm going to build something better. Something that doesn't confuse loyalty with stupidity. I hung up. Within 30 seconds, my phone rang again. I didn't recognize the number, but it had a 202 area code, Washington, D.C. I answered. Mr. Bennett, this is Colonel Thomas Ward. We worked together on the 2019 logistics framework. I just heard what happened at AeroVista. I remembered him. Air Force, retired now, but still consulting for DoD procurement. We'd spent 6 months building supply chain protocols together. Colonel Ward, it's been a while. Russ, I'm going to be direct. That kid Brandon called me this morning, tried to get me to authorize an emergency contract extension. Told me you'd left unexpectedly, and there was a technical transition issue. I told him I don't authorize anything without talking to the technical lead first. That's you. What did he say? He said you were no longer with the company, and he'd taken over your responsibilities. I told him that's interesting because last I checked, you were the only person in that organization who actually understood DoD compliance architecture. Then I hung up. Russ, what the hell is going on over there? I smiled for the first time that day. Nothing I need to worry about anymore, Colonel. Good, because I'm about to send you a consulting request. We need someone who actually knows what they're doing. Someone who won't burn down a $9 billion contract because they don't understand their own security protocols. I'd be happy to talk. Good man. I'll be in touch. After he hung up, I sat there in the diner booth, watching the afternoon light angle through the window. 18 years. That's what I'd given them. And in 9 minutes, I'd taken back what mattered. My name, my work, my future. I opened my laptop and began drafting an email to Matthias. Time to build something that would last. 3 days later, Matthias flew to D.C. We met at a steakhouse in Georgetown, the kind of place where defense contractors close deals over whiskey and handshakes. He was exactly what I expected. Mid-50s, gray at the temples, sharp eyes. He slid a leather portfolio across the table before we even ordered. We've been planning this for 4 months, Mr. Bennett. Waiting for the right moment. Or more accurately, waiting for AeroVista to make a mistake large enough to justify our withdrawal. You knew they'd fire me. We knew Brandon Creel was incompetent and arrogant, dangerous combination. We simply waited to see how long it would take. He opened the portfolio. The $9.3 billion contract with AeroVista was exclusively the AI system licensing. What we're offering you is the complete package. AI integration, deployment services, 7-year maintenance protocols, and most critically, your Sentinel authentication system licensed to our entire defense network. Total contract value, $11.8 billion over 7 years. I read through the contract, every page, every clause, every specification. It was exactly what he'd described: clean, professional, fair. "There's a $3.2 million signing bonus," I said. "Correct. Payable within 48 hours of execution." I thought about my father, about the scholarship fund I'd been planning, about 25 kids who needed a chance. I pulled out a pen from my jacket pocket, the same pen my father had used to sign his union card at the GM plant in 1985. He'd given it to me the year before he died. "This pen belonged to my father," I said. "He thought his union card would protect him. It didn't. I'm using it now to build something he would have wanted, something that actually protects people." I signed the contract. Russell Bennett, Bennett Defense Solutions. Matthias witnessed the signature and signed his own name. "Welcome to Euro Defense Partnership, Mr. Bennett. I think this will be considerably more productive than your previous arrangement." "I think you're right." Over the next week, things happened fast. Brandon Creel resigned from Aerovista on day 4. The official announcement buried the SEC investigation in paragraph 7, hiding it under corporate speak about pursuing other opportunities and spending time with family. But everyone in the industry knew what it meant. Owen sent me the internal memo. "Thought you'd want to see this. Half the engineering team is updating their resumes. 3 senior directors handed in notice yesterday. Buildings falling apart." Aerovista's stock never recovered. It stabilized around $64, down 27% from where it had been the morning they fired me. They'd lost $12.8 billion in market cap, more than the contract was even worth. Colonel Ward made good on his promise. Bennett Defense Solutions' second contract came through on day 9. DoD Logistics Modernization. $847 million over 3 years. He sent a note with it. This is what working with professionals looks like. By the end of week 2, I had $12.6 billion in signed contracts, more than I'd closed in 5 years at Aerovista. The $3.2 million signing bonus from Eurodefense hit my account on day 11. I immediately transferred $1.5 million to a trust I'd established. The Arthur Bennett Initiative. It took 3 months to get everything structured properly. Legal entity, vetting process, university partnerships, application review system. On a cold morning in January, I stood in a classroom at Michigan State University. 25 students sat in front of me. First recipients of the Arthur Bennett Initiative scholarships, kids whose parents had lost jobs to automation, outsourcing, factory closures. 18 of them were first-generation college students. All of them wanted to be engineers. My father worked 30 years as a machinist, I told them. GM plant in Detroit. When they closed it in 2008, he was 54 years old, same age I am now. He never recovered. Spent 3 years looking for work. Sent out 200 applications, got 4 interviews, 0 offers. Died of a heart attack in 2011, still unemployed. I held up the pen I'd used to sign the Eurodefense contract. Several students leaned forward. This was his pen. He used it to sign his union card in 1985. Thought it would protect him. It didn't. But I'm using it now to build something he would have wanted. Opportunity for people like him, like me, like you. A young woman in the second row raised her hand. "Mr. Bennett, is it true you walked away from a huge company to start your own?" "I didn't walk away. They fired me. Best thing that ever happened." "Why?" "Because I spent 18 years building someone else's empire, watching people take credit for my work, watching loyalty get treated like a liability. Now I'm building my own empire. And part of that empire is making sure kids like you don't have to choose between loyalty and survival the way my father did." A young man in the back spoke up. "What happened to the company that fired you?" "They lost $9.3 billion in contracts. Stock dropped 27%. Half their senior leadership quit. They're still trying to recover." I paused. "But that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to talk about revenge. I'm here to talk about building something better." After the session ended, students lined up to shake my hand. Thank me. Tell me their father's stories, their mother's stories. I listened to every single one. I drove home that evening as the sun was setting, pulled into my driveway. My phone buzzed. Text from Owen. "Aerovista just lost the Boeing contract, $2.1 billion. They went with a different vendor. 3 guesses who?" I didn't smile, didn't gloat. Just typed back, "Not my problem anymore." Because it wasn't. I was 52 years old, Navy veteran, engineer, my father's son, and I'd finally learned the lesson he never got to teach me. Sometimes the only way to build something that lasts is to walk away from what's broken, even if they call it quitting, even if they call it revenge. I call it knowing your worth. They thought 18 years made me obsolete. Turns out it made me irreplaceable. They just had to lose me to figure that out. Brandon wanted my job. He got it. Along with the $9.3 billion hole I left in the foundation, Charles wanted to save money by replacing experience with enthusiasm. He learned why experience costs what it does. The board wanted velocity and disruption. They got it, just not the kind they were hoping for. I wanted something simpler. I wanted to build systems that worked, train people who cared, create opportunities for kids who needed them, prove that loyalty should run both ways. And I wanted my father's name on something that mattered. Mission accomplished. Bennett Defense Solutions closed its first year with $18.4 billion in contracts. We hired 127 people. 34 of them came from Aero Vista. People who understood that good work matters more than good PowerPoints. The Arthur Bennett Initiative awarded scholarships to 89 students in year 1. We're projecting 150 for year 2. Last month I got a letter from one of the scholarship recipients. Her father had worked at the same GM plant as mine, got laid off the same year. She's studying aerospace engineering now, wants to design systems for deep space exploration. She thanked me for the scholarship, said it changed her life. I wrote her back, told her she earned it, told her to make her father proud, told her that's what I was trying to do too. Some people ask if I regret not saving Aerovista's contract that morning, if I feel bad about what happened. Here's what I tell them. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped holding it up. For 18 years, I was the foundation they built on. When they decided the foundation was obsolete, the building fell. That's not revenge. That's physics. And sometimes the best thing you can do is let gravity do its work, then build something better on solid ground.